welcome to the second season of the Ecologies of Danger podcast. Ecologies of Danger is a project produced by the students of a course on environmental security at Colgate University. In this season, we look at the different ways in which the environment has become a security issue. In this episode, Ryan Bourque explains how tribal sovereignty and environmental racism clashed around the Dakota Access Pipeline.
I begin my segment with the idea of tribal sovereignty. In the United States, this is the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States. It is an issue that has been debated in the U.S. for over 200 years. The issue is riddled with legacies of colonialism and the oppression of Native communities. Court cases regarding the issue date back to the 1800s, yet little progress has been made for the rights of these natives. The Dakota Access Pipeline and the people of the Sioux Nation are at the center of a recent and ongoing case of both tribal sovereignty and environmental racism. Here's an overview of some of the facts in the case. The pipeline, owned and operated by Energy Transfer Partners, was said to run through sacred lands and cross waterways essential to the life of Native communities. The EPA intervened in April of 2016, requesting a report of the environmental impacts of the pipeline crossing waterways. After the EPA requested the report, in July of 2016, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers went ahead and approved all of the water crossing permits. Following the approval of the permits, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe sued the USACE, which eventually resulted in a suspension of the construction and reconsideration of the environmental impacts report. Now, this was a victory for the tribe's people, but it was short-lived. Under the Trump administration, the legal process was expedited via a presidential memorandum that eventually saw the approval of the last water crossing permit. The construction of the pipeline was completed by April of 2017. The primary concerns of the Sioux tribe are the impacts that the pipeline may have on the environment and the health of the tribe. Additionally, the construction threatens sacred burial lands. The following is audio from ABC News containing a statement from a representative of the tribe describing the treatment of their land.
Those are burial sites up on that hill. They are in our land. We asked them to back off the other day. They come back. They are not to be on that land. Our ancestors are on that land. Our people have come together. We're here for prayer. We're here to stop this with prayer. But they are pushing. I went to 14 graves up there, what you would call graves. We asked them the other day when they were up there, they were kicking rocks around and knocking sticks down. How would you like it in Arlington Cemetery if all our Kichita went over and stood on them, or all our people started doing that? We will not do that. We are not asking for that. But we do need them to respect us also.
The sacred land of the tribe was trampled and bulldozed by Energy Transfer Partners, but the concerns did not end there. The threat of the pipeline leaking into the waterways threatens many aspects of tribal life. The waterway that the pipeline is crossing is key to the health of the tribe. Dallas Goldtooth of Sioux Dakota Nation is an organizer for the Indigenous Environmental Network. He spoke on the concerns that the tribe has for the environmental impacts of the pipeline in an interview with Al Jazeera.
You could see a lot of oil that could be going into not only the river system itself, but into the aquifer that provides the wells for a lot of homes in the area, that provides the wells for agriculture and for cattle feed. So the worst case scenario is a disaster.
Since the completion of the pipeline, there have already been multiple leaks. Energy Transfer Partners reassured both the U.S. government and the Sioux people that the pipeline would be the safest and cleanest way to transfer this fuel. But in 2017 alone, in its first year of operation, the Dakota Access Pipeline has already had at least 5 leaks reported. The Native Americans in this situation are victims of intense environmental racism. Some claim that their lands were taken purposefully, and note that their health concerns were ignored. New information on environmental reports, protests, operations, and oil leaks continue to surround the pipeline. Sadly, this case is not unique, bearing many similarities to other cases surrounding tribal sovereignty in the U.S. The abuses to native sovereignty seen in the Dakota Access Pipeline are reflections of a history of U.S. colonial policy that favors corporations, white settlers, and the U.S. government. The case of environmental injustice in Skull Valley, Utah, and the Goshute Indians bears striking similarities to the situation of the Sioux tribe. The Goshute tribe had nuclear waste materials relocated onto tribal lands in the early 2000s and didn't have a say in the process at all. Noriko Ishiyama, professor of geography at the University of Rutgers, outlines a long history of environmental injustice towards Native communities regarding land use. Ishiyama goes on to argue on behalf of the Goshute tribe, and I quote, "A prolonged process of historical colonialism has produced a landscape of injustices in which the tribe's choices have been structurally limited. The historical colonialism, intertwining with the capitalist political economy, has geopolitically isolated the tribe to suffer procedural environmental injustice. At the same time, the tribe has struggled to pursue self-determination through the retention of sovereignty and the Goshute identity in the areas of tribal environmental management and the environmental justice movement." Here, clearly the case of the Skull Valley band of the Goshute tribe is similar to the case of the Sioux tribe. So little has been done in the realm of procedural justice, which Ishiyama says is the rewriting of procedures around tribal sovereignty. This ensures that the tribes will continue to face the same problems over and over. A cause for this degree of Native neglect in the U.S. could arise from the fact that Native American engagement in American democracy is critically low. Tribes continue to rely on treaties from the 1800s when concerning their land rights. The reliance on these outdated treaties exemplifies the fact that Native communities are left out of modern-day politics. For a long time, the issue of tribal sovereignty has contributed to the problem of disengagement in American politics. Tribes have status as sovereign nations. They are separate political communities outside of the larger U.S. political realm, which leads to difficulties of voicing their own opinion and claiming their own rights. Here are some facts that help illustrate how bad the problem really is. Morgan Vigil Hayes from the University of California, Santa Barbara, in her 2017 study called #Indigenous, found that fewer than 66% of eligible voters even registered in Native American communities. Voter turnout rates are 5 to 14 percentage points lower than any other ethnic group. Native Americans comprise the least participatory ethnic group in the U.S. political elections. One study showed that Native American activists are so disenchanted with traditional political channels that many have moved their activism online. In this, the use of social media to block the pipeline is part of a broader trend among Native communities. Aisha Hoffer of the Walker River Paiute tribe comments on the use of social media in the Standing Rock protests.
We have to use our phones to just show our side of our story.
Put your weapons down!
Social media has been a good tool for us to provide the right information and communication with the outside world. We're able to connect with thousands of people instantly. What happened on October 27th was a big day for me just because that was the day they took over the frontline camp. It was hard to even witness it, but the world needed to see what was going on.
Taking the debates and fights outside of the normal political realm is necessary when there are structural and procedural boundaries to Native communities' political engagement. No ground has been made in the local courts or at the federal level that will benefit tribal sovereignty. Grassroots movements and protests must be employed to start making gains. Social media helps get the word out, but tribes are employing other tactics outside of standard politics to impact their situation. The Sioux tribe at Standing Rock is already beginning to use divestment and the targeting of institutions backing environmental injustice. Looking forward, the situation is already gloom for those at Standing Rock, as their protests have been met with cold denial and the pipeline construction was completed over their waterway. The activism surrounding the construction of the pipeline highlights the great lengths that Native communities have to go in order to make a dent in political decisions regarding their land. Strategies like social media campaigns and divestment into local politics give some hope to Native Americans and their concerns over the sovereignty over their own land. This is Ryan Bourque from Colgate University, signing off.